At the beginning of the story, we meet a simple man named Henry working his night shift at a toll booth. His tired face reflected a colorless, dull life. When he reached home in the morning, his wife Debbie told him that he no longer loved her, reminding him of how different things used to be. As they were talking, a loud knock came from the door. Henry opened it to find his friend Eddie, who was with a sick man named Joe, vomiting continuously. Since Debbie was a nurse, she brought Joe inside to help. Eddie then told Henry that his basketball team had a match that day, and since Joe couldn't play, Henry should take his place. Henry tried to refuse, but Eddie forced a jersey on him and took him along. On the way, Henry asked where the game would be. Eddie replied it was just 15 minutes away. Soon after, Eddie asked Henry to stop the car. He and two masked men got out, saying they were grabbing food, and told Henry to keep the engine running. Henry didn't even know the other two men. To his shock, Eddie and his companions pulled out guns and stormed into a bank. Poor Henry had no idea he was being used as their getaway driver, and the car itself was stolen. When the robbers ran out, chaos erupted. A guard noticed Henry, who was wearing a shirt similar to theirs, and arrested him. Despite the police pressing him for names, Henry only knew Eddie, but out of loyalty, he didn't mention him. Because of this, Henry was sentenced to 3 years in prison for attempted bank robbery. Inside jail, Henry met Max, who treated him kindly. During breakfast the next day, Max explained that every prisoner once had dreams, but life's misfortunes brought them here. When Max asked Henry about his dream, Henry replied he had none. Max scolded him, saying a life without dreams was meaningless. 6 months later, Debbie visited Henry. With a heavy heart, she admitted she had fallen in love with someone else. But Henry, selfless as ever, told her it didn't matter. He just wanted her to be happy, even if it wasn't with him. Meanwhile, Max was seen as a feared figure in prison. When asked once what he would do if released, he gave a chilling answer. He'd burn houses, kill dogs, and silence everyone inside. Prisoners laughed, knowing Max didn't see jail as punishment but as home. Soon Henry's release date arrived. Other prisoners admired him, calling him a gentleman. Henry maintained his innocence, but Max reminded him that once you've been in jail, society will always see you as a criminal. Upon release, Henry visited Debbie, only to find Joe living with her and Debbie carrying Joe's child. Shocked, Henry realized how much his life had changed. Joe thanked Henry for not naming him in court and even offered him a business deal. But Henry, bitter, replied he didn't even know his name and walked away. Lost in thought, Henry stood outside the same bank where it all began. Suddenly, a car hit him. The driver was a woman named Julie, who scolded him before checking if he was okay. A familiar bank guard helped Henry and brought him to a nearby cafe. Julie followed, but when Henry said he'd seen her before, she brushed him off and left. In the cafe's bathroom, Henry found an old newspaper clipping about a bank robbery 80 years ago, carried out through an underground tunnel from a theater behind the bank. That tunnel led directly to the vault. Excited, Henry visited Max in prison, telling him he had finally discovered his dream, to rob the bank. If he was destined to be seen as a criminal, at least he'd commit a real crime. At first, Max didn't understand, but Henry insisted he had a top-class plan and asked Max to join him. Henry then went to the theater to investigate. There he found Julie rehearsing for a play, but her director harshly scolded her, saying she would never succeed. Upset, Julie stormed off to a cafe, where Henry followed. While sharing coffee, Henry praised her acting, and she thanked him for not reporting the accident. Meanwhile, Max applied for parole, following Henry's advice on how to behave before officers, and was soon released. When Henry came to pick him up, on foot, Max grew furious, saying he wanted to go back to prison rather than follow a fool. But when Henry explained his plan to use the old tunnel, Max was intrigued. Still, he reminded Henry that the bank may have changed the vault's location. To confirm, they visited the bank and cleverly tricked the assistant manager into revealing that the vault had never been moved. The suspicious guard, however, kept an eye on them. Later, they returned to the theater. Julie, surprised to see Henry again, also met Max, who claimed he used to act there in his youth, even mentioning Shakespeare. He received permission to explore the theater, which allowed him to inspect the tunnel entrance. Meanwhile, Julie asked Henry what he did for a living. Henry admitted he had just been released from prison. Shocked, she asked if he was a murderer. Henry said it was a long story, promising to explain later, and they planned a dinner date. Afterwards, Max confirmed that the tunnel connected through the green room of the theater. They would need to secure that room to dig unnoticed. But Henry was more focused on his date with Julie. He nervously asked Max how he looked, to which Max laughed, saying he looked the same as always. On the date, Julie shared her dream of becoming a famous actress, while Henry confessed the truth, his wrongful imprisonment, his lost life, and his plan to rob the bank. Julie was shocked, yet drawn to Henry's honesty. Their closeness deepened that night. The next morning, Henry brought Julie to Max's place, introducing her as part of their plan. Max was furious Henry had revealed everything, but reluctantly tolerated her presence. During a meal, Julie asked Max why he had been in prison. Max casually admitted to committing multiple murders, explaining he wasn't afraid of being caught because jail was his favorite place. Later, Henry and Julie suggested holding auditions in the theater to spend more time there. But Max came up with a sharper plan: remove the actor who used the green room and replace him with Henry, giving them full access to dig the tunnel without anyone suspecting. Henry hesitated, saying he didn't know how to act. But Max encouraged him. "Look at your face. You're a natural. No one could do it better. Besides, it's the lead role." Soon after, the lead actor left the play, claiming he got a big movie role. In reality, Max had tricked him into leaving. When Julie found out, she was furious. "Will you only be satisfied after ruining my career?" she shouted. Despite her anger, Henry gave the audition and surprisingly got selected. With Henry in the cast, sneaking into the tunnel became easier. But within days, they realized digging the tunnel was impossible with just 2 people. Reluctantly, Henry convinced Joe to join them. Joe, however, mocked their plan, saying, "Why go through all this? Just grab a gun and steal it directly." Max snapped back, "We're not doing foolish robberies like you." As the digging progressed, Henry also grew dedicated to his acting. He didn't just want money anymore, he wanted a new life. One night, the bank guard who had once arrested Henry stopped him. "You're the same guy who was with those bank robbers. And lately, I've seen you sneaking into the theater behind the bank. I won't let anything go wrong this time." But instead of panicking, Henry drove him to a quiet place and asked, "What do you want?" The guard, Frank, revealed his own scheme. Once every month, a truck collects currency from partner banks, holding over 100 crore rupees in this vault. Only a fool would rob the bank at any other time.
"I can be your inside man."
"I'll even disable the alarm for you." Meanwhile, at the theater, during a rehearsal, the director scolded Julie, saying, "You've never truly loved anyone. Your heart has never been broken. That's why you'll never be a great actress." During the break, Julie broke down in tears. Henry comforted her, and she admitted, "He's right. I've never loved anyone, but I want to be an actress." Henry softly replied, "You do love someone. You just don't realize it yet. You love me, and I know you'll become a great actress." That night, while Henry and Max were planning the heist, Joe and Eddie suddenly appeared. Eddie revealed Joe had told him everything and demanded to join. Max immediately disliked him. "Who is this fool?" he growled. Eddie arrogantly declared, "I know everything. You can't shut me out." Max snapped. Henry stepped in, stopping the fight. The next day, Henry and Max learned their play would close in just a few days. Disheartened, Henry admitted, "I don't think we can go through with it anymore." Deep inside, he had fallen in love with Julie and didn't want to leave her behind. Max, furious, grabbed him. "You dragged me out of prison for this plan. I've wasted my life rotting in jail. Now that I'm free, I'll finally commit a real crime." That night, Henry met Julie and confessed, "We'll rob the bank on the opening night of the play. After that, I'll run to California. You'll go to Hollywood. We'll meet there, right?" But Julie exploded. "If you were going to leave, why did you make me believe in love? You only used me to get into the theater. It's my mistake that I fell for a thief." Finally, the big day arrived, the opening night of the play and the night of the robbery. The money truck, just as Frank had said, arrived at the bank. As the play began, Henry performed brilliantly, slipping away when the chance arose to help Max and Joe. The team smashed through the tunnel wall and used a welding machine to cut into the vault. Frank had already disabled the alarm. Everything was going perfectly until Eddie betrayed them. Pointing a gun at Max, Eddie demanded the money. He ordered Joe to load the cash into the car. Just then, Henry returned, but Eddie tried to intimidate him as well. He struck Max with the gun, knocking him down. But Max, furious, wrestled the gun away and beat Eddie. In the chaos, a bullet went off, grazing Henry's leg. Despite the injury, Henry rushed back to the theater, limping onto stage just as his cue arrived. The audience thought his emotions were part of the act. Meanwhile, Max tied up Eddie and, along with Joe, escaped with the money. Back on stage, Henry poured his heart out to Julie in front of everyone. "I can't leave you. I truly love you. I can't live without you." The audience, believing it was part of the play, was enthralled. Even the director, sensing the raw passion, dimmed the lights and urged Julie to respond. Finally, after a long silence, Julie didn't say the words, but her face said it all. The crowd erupted, believing they had witnessed a powerful performance. In that moment, Henry had not only won Julie's love, but also redeemed his life. At last, the hero got the heroine. And as for the stolen money, it no longer mattered. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. subscribe, and press the bell icon for more videos.